Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today is the 25th of March, 2021. Right everyone, let's get right into it. A lot happened over the last 24 hours or so. So I think the biggest thing that a lot of people were talking about was, I put a tweet out here, Beeple rugged us like a 2017 ICO scam, and this was just like a pure joke. But basically the context behind this was that Beeple actually, ended up selling, this piece a few weeks ago for $69 million, right? His NFT. He sold it for ETH. And then he basically, the proceeds from that, like not all of that was proceeds. Obviously, he had to pay a fee to the Christie's, the auction website that he kind of did the sale on, or the auction on. But yeah, essentially there was this article from Decrypt that basically said Beeple immediately sold all of the ETH for USD, so $53 million worth, which was kind of disappointing, right, for a lot of people. But I mean, I don't blame him, right, for doing this. You know, half of that is taxes for sure, since he's in the US. But also, it doesn't make sense for him to keep the money in like an extremely speculative asset and all that sort of stuff. So I get it. But I guess in the article, there's also, a bunch of comments that he made as well, about kind of like NFTs in general and like the crypto kind of like community and stuff like that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, where he basically was just like, he kind of says like, NFTs are in a bubble. And I mean, yeah, okay, you can argue that for sure. And that's fine. But like, there was kind of like, stuff like this, he says, I'm not remotely a crypto purist. I was making digital art long before any of this shit. And if all this, NFT stuff went away tomorrow, I would still be making digital art. So it's kind of like, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's kind of like he doesn't respect the fact that, people, he was able to do this, and he was able to do these kind of things because he has a platform to do it with Ethereum, with NFTs and stuff like that. So yeah, I just kind of felt like that was a bit of a kind of like, a bit of a shit thing to do for someone who, I guess, was, I guess like someone who got a lot of money out of people in this ecosystem, right? And, people bought it because they were speculating on it too, right? And I totally get that. But I don't know, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way there. And I didn't want to harp too much on about this, but as I said, I totally don't blame him for selling it for USD. Half of it for tax, half of it to do whatever he wants with. That's obviously, more than life-changing money for him and his family and everything like that. And good on him for that. But I think, it was kind of like biting the hand that kind of fed you sort of thing. And, that's what rubbed me the wrong way. But in general, good on him for being able to do this. And, he did bring a lot of people into the ecosystem as well, as a positive note, right? A lot of people learned about Ethereum and NFTs and stuff through Beeple. He was kind of one of the first people doing this in a really big way, at least the art NFTs. And he, he obviously exposed Ethereum to a lot of people. So from that respect, it wasn't like, I'm not going to say he was a net negative for the ecosystem or anything like that. He was definitely a positive force there. But yeah, I hope that he does more stuff within the ecosystem on a more positive note as well, rather than kind of saying stuff like, it's all in a bubble. And, sure, you can argue that, but at the same time, it's like, even if you think it's in a bubble, you should kind of work to, put a light on what's not in a bubble and what the value is here and what the lasting value is. And I hope he does something with that money where he gives back a little bit to the community, whether that be donating it to charity in general, or like giving to Gitcoin grants or something like that. That'd be cool. But yeah, we'll see how it happens. But honestly, he can do what he wants with his money, right? Just like all of us can. But yeah, I hope that he definitely, sticks around and is more of a positive force in the ecosystem going forward. So Elon Musk did it today. He tweeted out about DeFi. So he said, "Don't defy DeFi," which was quite cool to see. Yesterday or the other day, he kind of like announced that Tesla would be accepting Bitcoin for their cars and stuff like that, which is obviously a big deal. I think that was yesterday actually. And then today he's tweeting about DeFi. He didn't mention Ethereum, unfortunately. I think at this point it's sad, but like DeFi doesn't just exist on Ethereum, and then people kind of just say DeFi is like this general term, and then, it refers to all of this stuff. But obviously DeFi was born on Ethereum, and most of it, if not, pretty much almost all of it happens on Ethereum still, all the innovation and stuff like that. But I think we're getting to a point now where people are just not going to say Ethereum when they mention DeFi, and I think that's okay, because like in the end, people are going to Google DeFi, they're going to find Ethereum anyway, so not a huge deal there. But really cool to see him tweeting about this. And I actually went and looked at the Google Trends, and I saw that I searched by hourly, and I saw that the kind of minute that he tweeted, the Google trend for the term DeFi just shot up, right, which is natural. And I actually look at the Google results, and they weren't that encouraging. I mean, if you just Google DeFi, there's like a Forbes article about it, which is just not that great. There's like a few CoinDesk things which are okay, and then there's something about like other blockchains that I'd never heard of that popped up in the news section. So I was just like, that's just weird. And DeFi Pulse was one of the top results, which is nice, but it was just a bit of a weird thing to see there, because I'd never, like, obviously I'm not going to just Google the term DeFi, right? Like, I already know what it is, of course, but I think we could do a better job at kind of getting these pages ranked there. I mean, Google rankings work in very specific ways, and if any of you have had experience with like SEO before, you'll know what I mean. But essentially, I hope that we can kind of like climb up the rankings there with legit things. I'd love CoinGecko's What is DeFi kind of ebook to be ranked highly on that page. Like, ideally, it'd be the first link, right? But yeah, I just think that, that's just not the way it is right now, and it's unfortunate. But, Elon's doing some pretty good free advertising right now. I mean, he has, as I mentioned yesterday, he has 50 million followers, or pretty much almost 50 million followers. And, he's tweeted about Ethereum before as well, I think, actually quite a while ago. It wasn't recent. I think a few months, if not like years ago at this point. So, next thing was DeFi. He's tweeted about NFTs before as well, of course. So he seems to be pretty plugged in, but of course, he's doing a bunch of other stuff. So he's just got like this surface level understanding, right, of a lot of this stuff. Obviously, he's tweeted about Dogecoin and things like that. But I think that's okay. Lots of new people seeing this, lots of new people coming into the ecosystem. So just a positive note all around, I think. So Sigma Prime, one of the ETH2 developers. So for those who don't know, Sigma Prime is building, I guess, like an ETH2 client called, the name has kind of like Lighthouse, that's what it's called. Sorry, the name escaped me for a second there. But basically, they announced today that they produced the first ETH1 and ETH2 merge transaction. So this ETH transaction that they produced is using only proof of stake validators, which is a step towards, dropping Ethereum's energy consumption. Now, they're saying, while this is exciting, this isn't like ready for production or anything. Obviously, it's done like as a prototype on testnets and stuff like that, which is still really cool. I mean, the fact that I've talked about how the merger is like top priority right now, and the ETH2 teams are working on them, and of course the ETH1 teams are working on it too. And the fact that we already have this kind of stuff going on is just really, really cool and really bullish. So yeah, kudos to Sigma Prime for doing this and showing their work here. It's really great to see. And I mean, I personally just can't wait for this future. I mean, like, we can't say technically that we have proof of stake today. I mean, we do have a proof of stake network, but Ethereum itself is kind of like both right now. So I'm really longing for the day that we get rid of the proof of work, go fully proof of stake, drop that issuance by a lot, and drop that energy usage by even more here. And we can finally say that Ethereum is a proof of stake network. So yeah, for those wondering, pretty much like all of the smartest people in Ethereum and all of the most important kind of core developers are pretty much working on the merge right now. So, I would say that I don't know if it's going to happen by end of this year. I think that's pretty optimistic. I would say there's a pretty high chance that it could happen Q1 next year, as I've mentioned before. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, really, really cool update here from Sigma Prime today. So Rainbow Wallet tweeted out this kind of like teaser here today, where they basically tweet out a picture of kind of like a wallet, and they have like the OP logo next to the ETH kind of asset and next to the DAI asset here. Now, what that means is Optimism. So basically, I guess what Rainbow's showing here is that they're going to have Optimism support when Optimism goes live on mainnet, of course, which is awesome. I mean, the fact that they've got like a little logo here to show you where your assets are as well is really important, because obviously people want to keep track of their assets, and when they've got like either their wallets or like dashboards like Zappa and stuff like that, and you need to know what network your kind of assets are on. So I think this is really cool here, and I'm kind of wondering when Optimism's going to launch at this stage. Like, remember, they put out a post saying they'd be live in March, and as I've said, like, there's only a few days left of March, so maybe there's going to be a delay here. I did do a recap of all the layer 2 stuff happening in today's Daily Gwei newsletter. It's actually, pretty dense, so definitely go give that a read. You can kind of see what's happening in the layer 2 ecosystem, because sometimes it might feel like not much is happening because we're all so glued to our screens and glued to this ecosystem. But like, as I was writing it, and going through everything, I was like, wow, holy crap, like so much is happening right now in the layer 2 space that, even though I follow it every day, I'd kind of forgotten because of the fact that like this space moves so fast. So yeah, we'll see if Optimism goes live this month still. If not, I'm sure they have like a pretty legit reason for delaying to maybe April. We know that Uniswap v3 is going to go live in May, on May 5th, and then shortly after that they said they're going to have an Optimism implementation. So maybe we won't see it till May, but I don't think so. Synthetics is already working with Optimism and has been for a while. I'm sure they have some other apps building on them and stuff like that. So they could, still launch either this month or in April, still have usability, and then, the big guns come out in May with Uni v3. But yeah, good to see Rainbow supporting this already. I'm sure this isn't on obviously the wallet you can access on your phone, but in their own testing environment. So yeah, really cool. And for those of you who haven't yet, definitely go check out this wallet, the Rainbow wallet here. It's actually really, really pretty, and it works really well. I mean, it lets you track addresses as well. You don't have to just create a wallet on it. You can actually watch your existing wallets, and it's a really cool way to display your NFTs as well on your phone. So yeah, definitely go check it out. So Loopring, I mean, I've talked about Loopring a lot before, of course, and they're doing a lot in the layer 2 space. So they basically kind of put out a tweet today saying that, there's a divide between ZK rollups and optimistic rollups, right? Well, no, not really, because what Loopring is doing is that they're saying that now that their smart contract wallet is in the process of compiling to Optimism as well. So, on L1, on multiple L2s, it's your choice. So basically, with your existing Loopring wallet, you don't just have to use, Loopring's kind of like technology. You can also use Optimism, and I'm sure they're going to add support for other kind of layer 2 solutions as well here. This is amazing to see. I mean, I've talked about them to no end, but Loopring is just so Ethereum aligned, which I really love. And the fact that they're just like not saying, oh, we're just going to work on our own solutions, right? We're just going to work on our own ZK rollup and screw everyone else is amazing. I'm glad they're adding support for more kind of solutions here, because that's critically important. It's important that we don't have like, I guess, a time where it's like layer 2 maximalism, right? Where, someone's like, oh, I only liked Optimism, or I only like Loopring, or I only like StarkWare, or whatever, right? I feel like, there's inevitably going to be some tribalism there because, people have their own favorites and whatever. And there already has been between, especially the developers working on these solutions saying, my solution's better, no, mine's better. But at the end of the day, that's all noise, right? What really matters is the tech. And I'm just glad to see Loopring kind of supporting the real tech that's existing today, or it will exist in the future as well. So yeah, kudos to them. You can go watch this kind of video here where they give an overview. It'll be linked in the YouTube description for you to check out. So another layer 2 update here today, Arbitrum. So for those who don't know, Arbitrum is basically, I guess, very similar to Optimism in that they're building optimistic rollups. The major difference here is that they don't have their own virtual machine, whereas Optimism does. They have the Optimism virtual machine, whereas Arbitrum is promising just straight EVM compatibility out of the box. Now, what they dropped today was pretty hype, and I didn't see many people talking about it, but basically they dropped a new testnet. But it's not just any testnet, it's their mainnet release candidate. So what this means is that this is the code base that will be going onto mainnet in a short while, because they're obviously going onto testnet first because they want to test everything, make sure everything's okay, make sure there's no critical bugs or anything like that, and just let it kind of stew for a bit. But they say in the post shortly after today, where they released this kind of testnet deployment onto Kovan, they're going to be doing their mainnet release. And once that goes live, I mean, developers can already build on this technology because you can do it on the testnet. But once that goes out live on mainnet, that's when it gets real, right? Everyone's going to be, checking it out. People are going to be experiencing these kind of like cheap transactions for a bunch of apps. Like I'm sure Arbitrum has a bunch of launch partners that they're going to be launching with. So yeah, I mean, another layer 2 solution coming. A pretty big one as well, because as I said, Arbitrum is very similar to Optimism, whereas they do promise to have like full EVM compatibility without the need for a new virtual machine, or at least like a virtual machine that's very similar, like the OVM, for example, which isn't a knock on Optimism or anything like that, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and see what solutions kind of like work better than others, or what solutions kind of have different trade-offs and who picks what. Right now, I think we're at the point where we have like a bunch of solutions, Arbitrum, StarkWare, Optimism, like these kind of generalized solutions where anyone can kind of build on them. And there's more than that, of course, but basically it's now like a race to kind of get the apps on board, right, on your solution now. And it's going to be fragmented for quite a while, and there's solutions there as well, like Connect's network and Hot Protocol that I've spoken about before. But for the time being, I guess you could call it the short to medium term. There's definitely going to be fragmentation, which is going to have to be worked through. And we'll get to a nice point, I think, especially with those bridging solutions. So speaking of StarkWare, they raised a lot of money. So it was announced that they raised a Series B yesterday, and that they raised $75 million in a funding round led by Paradigm. Now, funny thing, Paradigm is actually one of the main investors, or at least the lead investor in Optimism as well here. So yeah, they're funding, I guess like StarkWare too, which is really interesting because I guess StarkWare isn't. I mean, you could say it's a competitor to Optimism in that they're building layer 2 tech, but they're actually building very different layer 2 tech. They're building ZK rollups, right? Not optimistic rollups. And they're going for a bit of a different approach here. But yeah, I mean, this is a massive round, right? $75 million. That gives them a lot of runway, a lot of kind of, I guess, money to recruit a lot more people onto the team. And, other than Paradigm, they have a bunch of other heavy hitters on board. I guess, there's an ad. I guess there was some names up here. Here it is. Sequoia, Founders Fund, Pantera, and new investors like 3 Arrows Capital and Alameda Research here. I think, there's I kind of assume that Paradigm kind of took most of the round, considering that they have a lot of money now. That the Uniswap investment alone is worth billions of dollars. So they're not strapped for cash. And, Paradigm is known for making big bets on these teams that they think are going to be like critical to Ethereum's kind of, future. They're very Ethereum aligned. And StarkWare is obviously one of them, right? I mean, layer 2 is critical to Ethereum's future. StarkWare has some of the best tech out there today. They are a killer team. They're on the bleeding edge of this sort of stuff, with ZK rollups at least. So yeah, it makes sense for them to get a big raise here. Obviously a lot of people are thinking the same thing I am. When token at this point, right? I mean, inevitably, I think everything's going to have a token, whether that is like something that looks more like equity or whether it's like a staking token or something like that. I do think that StarkWare is going down the path of becoming, I guess, like a layer 2 kind of like network that looks like a layer 1, but instead of like, obviously, pulling its own security, it gets its security from Ethereum, but there's definitely going to be a token there for sure. So we'll see how that goes, and it's going to be one of the more hyped launches, I think, of the year. I would assume it's going to launch sometime this year, so we'll see. But yeah, congrats to StarkWare on the raise. I mean, I've heard literally nothing but good things about StarkWare as a company, as a team, and they keep shipping, right? They shipped the DYDX stuff the other day. They're working with Immutable X. They're working with a bunch of other teams as well. So yeah, really, really cool to see this. In other news, a new kind of DeFi protocol called Handle Finance announced that they had closed their seed round. So they raised money from a bunch of different investors. You may have heard of them. Distributed Global, Lemniscap, Dacom, CMS Holdings, One Block, Orthogonal Trading, Apollo Capital, Mume Ventures, Hard Fork Ventures, The Lao, and Double Peak. So yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, Handle Finance is building a non-USD stablecoin platform, basically a foreign exchange kind of platform. And the reason why I guess like I'm very interested in this protocol is that, I don't like using USD because of the fact that it exposes me to risk where the USD/AUD pair can drift, and I can either lose money or or if I gain money, I incur like capital gains taxes, which is just like super annoying to account for and all this sort of stuff. So I'm actually locked out a lot of the yield farming stuff. Any kind of like, I guess, fiat that I have to kind of take to my bank account, and because it's just too much of a risk to keep it in USD. So from that perspective, I like what Handle Finance is building here, where there's going to be, it's going to be a similar model to kind of like Maker, where you collateralize the position with ETH or other kind of like tokens and mint these kind of like synthetic stable coins. And there's going to be obviously, synthetic AUD. There's going to be like, JPY, like all the top kind of currencies, Japanese yen, Korean won, all that sort of stuff on the platform. So yeah, congrats to them on, I guess, the seed round close here. And I'm looking forward to seeing them grow, because I would love to be able to use a very liquid, high market cap AUD stablecoin to do yield farming, and, without exposing myself to the massive risk of the USD AUD kind of like trading pair, and also the capital gains tax headache that comes with that. So the block added a new dashboard today, which I thought was very interesting. So this dashboard tracks ICO treasuries. Now the funny thing is about this is that I remember there was a dashboard for this back in the day, and I kind of made a comment here about it on DR newsletter here. They basically had a dashboard tracking ICO treasuries way back in like 2018 and stuff. And obviously back then there was still a lot more ETH in these treasuries. But now, the blocks dashboard here, you can see that most of the, I guess, ETH is in, I mean, my camera's blocking it, but basically on the left is the Ethereum Foundation as first place, Golem second place, Gnosis third place, and then a bunch of others following that as well. It's funny, looking at the names here, Cosmos, which is obviously, I mean, I don't know if they're an Ethereum competitor, but they're obviously another layer 1 blockchain, still has a bunch of ETH. 10x, a literal scam, has a bunch of ETH there. The other ones, I mean, are old names like Bloom and Ripio, are like old 2017 kind of ICOs here that I haven't heard of from quite a while. But yeah, interesting. I mean, the ETH Foundation one is whatever. Like, we obviously know where that's going. Golem still having 300,000 ETH in their treasury is quite insane. They were one of the first ICOs. I know they've been doing a bunch of stuff lately, especially like with layer 2 and things like that. So, they are still building, but I think that project was very, very early, and they have such a large treasury that they can just keep building forever at this point, and building towards a solution, which is fine, I think. And then, you have, I guess, Gnosis here, which is obviously very Ethereum aligned. You can't see it on the video, sorry, but like they've got almost, I think, 90,000 ETH, kind of, I guess, in their treasury, and they're building a lot of different products as well. So yeah, definitely, I guess, like, very, very cool to see that. But yeah, nowhere near as much ETH as that was in treasuries, kind of like back in the day. I remember during 2018 and 2019, there was a ton of ETH in these treasuries, and they were very, I guess, how can you call it? They were very, I guess, like dumpy, I guess you could say. They were dumping ETH like no tomorrow. I mean, you could see the flows coming, and like obviously EOS ended up raising like allegedly $4 billion worth of ETH. They dumped every single ETH they had, and they actually put it into Bitcoin. So if you're wondering why during 2018 and 2019 the price of ETH got so brutalized and we hit $80, a big part of that was because ICOs were dumping their ETH on, the treasuries were dumping their ETH on the market. But on the flip side, a big reason why ETH went up in 2017, especially like that's Omega Rise, was because it was being used for ICOs. So I guess like, if you were to say what the fair market price was for ETH during 2017, 18, and 19 without the kind of like extreme buying pressure for ETH due to something that was extremely kind of fleeting here in kind of like ICOs, you could say that the fair market price was between $100 and $200 at the time, right? Now, obviously, I think it's a lot higher than that. We have like the bustling ecosystems like DeFi and NFTs and ETH2 is like, the first phase is live. We've got the merge coming. We've got 1559 coming. I mean, obviously, it's a very different time to what it was back then. But I think during those 3 years, the fair market price that, I guess the wider market was willing to pay for ETH was definitely the $100 to $200 mark there. And that was a great place to scoop up a lot of ETH, right? You had a long time to buy ETH between $100 and $200, which was, obviously, I think a lot of, a lot of you would have scooped some up there, especially if you were around back then. Obviously I bought as much as I could back then, but at the same time, it's always hard buying during a bear market, right? Especially when you don't know, right? Like Ethereum, oh man, I've gone through it before. I'm not going to rehash what I said, but it was just a different time. Let's put it that way. Very different time, but glad that the community kept building and we got over this kind of like hurdle of ICO treasuries kind of selling here. So Etherscan dropped a new feature today. Basically, you can go to this page, etherscan.io/airdrops, and you can actually see which projects have done airdrops, and you can actually you can kind of like see all the details about it, and you can go to where you need to claim it as well. Now, I think this is really cool because there are airdrops that people just don't know about, right? There are so many of these that you look at and you're like, okay, since when did this happen, right? Wow, I have money sitting here. Holy crap! Like, I'm gonna go claim that. So yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna see a lot more of kind of like, I mean, the page is what you see in front of me, right? There's a bunch of projects on there, but I think there's a lot more that people just don't know about, and they've got like tokens for. So yeah, kudos to Etherscan for putting this out there. I think it's this kind of really important to letting people know about what they've got. And I guess like maybe you've got some kind of stuck in these projects. I mean, like, just looking at this list here, Ruler Protocol and Mask Network and Mural. I guess those 3 projects are something that I don't see talked about too much on crypto Twitter. And the other ones like Pulled Together and Furo Combo and Tornado Cash 1inch and Uniswap. I mean, obviously everyone knows about the Uniswap and 1inch and Tornado Cash airdrop and maybe not so much about the Furo Combo airdrop. I actually didn't know that they did an airdrop, so there you go. But the other ones up there, I guess Pulled Together, people also knew about. But in general, there's a lot of these ones that you just don't know about, especially if you're not in the ecosystem every day. And there's just free money kind of sitting there for you to claim, basically. So yeah, really, really cool feature from Etherscan here. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, we don't deserve Etherscan. They provide such an amazing service across a bunch of different things that they do on their website. So yeah, thanks to them for putting this out there. So last thing here is Dennis from Kyber Network put out, I guess, a new podcast called the TheETHLife podcast that he's launched here. So this podcast is dedicated to the countless Ethereums passionately building on the best blockchain in the world, in Dennis's words here. Inspired by Bankless and ETHHub, they aim to amplify the Ethereum community's voice, spread awareness, and champion the decentralized cause. Really, really cool. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of podcasts now, right? I mean, some of you are probably listening to kind of this refuel on a podcast version, but I don't think that's a bad thing that we have more, and I think there's always stories to be told here. Unfortunately, at ETHHub, we had to kind of pause the guests that we were doing, so now we only do the weekly recaps. And obviously, Bankless and the DeFi do a lot of stuff as well there. DeFi Dad does stuff as well with Yield TV. But I think there's always room for more here. And talking to like the everyday Ethereums as well, right? The people that you don't necessarily hear from too much. There's I guess you could say there's like the famous Ethereans, then there's like the everyday ones that are just grinding, building really interesting stuff that aren't like quote unquote Twitter thought leaders and stuff like that. That definitely need a spotlight. So I think this is what Dennis is trying to do here. So yeah, if you haven't checked this out yet, be sure to. It'll be linked in the YouTube description, like everything else in today's refuel. All right, that's it for today, everyone. Thank you again for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.